Welcome to the official Topic Talk. Please like, share and subscribe.
Audio Jungle.
First of all, I want to give a massive shout out and thank you to Alex from AC coming back to life. Also, a big massive thank you to John Humble Dryer #2. Also to Donna, and I want to give the world's biggest shout out to Dot. You know, you're the most bravest woman in the world that I've ever come across or seen on a YouTube platform, and thank you for letting the world and public know exactly what you went through at the hands of a very disgusting monster from Carlisle. It must have took a lot for you to come forward, and I know that Alec had been working behind the scenes with you. And Alec, a massive big up to yourself, sir, because for an interview on the spot that was so deep, I mean, it even brought a tear to my eye, and I'm a man. So massive respect to you, Alec, for doing the interview at such short notice. And I know you've done a lot behind the scenes. And a massive respect to John Humble as well for making it all happen.
If certain people don't understand what we're talking about, because I've had a load of new subscriptions come in and they're not really subscribed to the channel, knowing the situation that's going on YouTube at the minute, there's a certain individual who his name is HEGGIE, and me and Steve got involved with HEGGIE at the beginning of my YouTube career. I don't know about your YouTube career, Steve, but anyway, when I first came on, I seen this guy, and apparently he was being trolled. And before I actually get into that, what I will say is the fact that there's a voice to this now. Now I know there was another lady. I'm not going to say her name because she has autism and learning difficulties, so I don't want to be saying her name. And she was sort of not the original voice, but there was a lot of stuff going on in regards to that situation. So we're going to keep her out of that. I do understand that she's in that situation, but we do have a voice now, who it's a face. It's an alleged victim, and I have to say alleged because there was no convictions, but it was NFA'd, no further action, and we'll get into that later on in the podcast. But for the new people that have come on to my YouTube channel, me and Steve came on to YouTube. I came in later than Steve, about 6 months after Steve. And apologies if you can hear noise there. My son, he's running about playing Minecraft again. So if you hear any noise, that's just him. And whenever I came on, I thought a guy was being trolled. We've talked about this, but I thought a guy was being trolled, and it turned out that it wasn't a trolling campaign. It was people trying to warn others about what this man had on his allegations. And then I soon realized that whenever he came onto my podcast and I asked him to do the subject access request, and he later went on and showed a police certificate and a charge sheet, I soon realized that there was substance to this. Now, am I saying that everything to do with this certain individual, Daka, is 100% true? No, but I am saying that the vast, I would say 95% of it, of what people have said about this guy is true. And now there's a very strong lady who's came on the screen on the Humble's channel via Alec. What's his second name?
Alec Kearney.
Alec Kearney or Kearney? Kearney, I think it is. Kearney? Or
I'm
Kearney?
not sure how you pronounce it, but it's AC coming back to life.
AC coming back to life channel. I'll just call him Alec. Apologies, Alec, if you're listening to this. And he's been speaking to this lady, and this lady is a victim of this man, an alleged victim of this man. And now there is a voice. So what we have now is we have a Sarah and Claire's law. Sarah's law is sexual criminality, and that is he may pose a risk to kids. domestic violence clause law, significant risk to women and children, multiple things like voice recordings and things like that, where he's admitted to it. He admitted to having these allegations on my podcast. I just rewatched it. He actually admitted to it, having these allegations, and then he went on to say that he didn't. He's got a racist charge on his convictions list, and he is convicted of a sexual offence
and violence.
And violence, and he has a ton of domestic violence and coercive control on his record too, which he has, I believe, was he convicted of coercive control?
Yeah, conviction, that one.
Well, yeah, so, and then on top of that, his subject access request was released, and there was doubt in that. Now it's real. It was just obtained by illegal means. So, and then right at the end of it, there is now a victim, an alleged victim has came forward and has spoke out about this. So in my mind, there is no doubt that there has been some dirty, nasty, disgusting shit being done to women at the very, very least. Now, one of the things that stood out to me, I only watched half of the Humble Dryer podcast with Alec and the lady and Donna, and I was watching it today, and I can only get halfway through, so you'll sort of be able to speak better in this, but I really didn't even need to speak I didn't really need to listen to any more, because what I heard was the sexual criminality is one thing, but this guy is very much a control freak. He works on coercive behavior, and his attitude towards women and the way he treats women in relationships is absolutely disgusting. Now, I had a few people come to me and say to me that we're past the days of Jimmy Savile's being able to get away with stuff. For me, this is proof. Take away the sexual criminality, but the way just this person treats other people, women, this is proof that people can get away with stuff today, and it can be overlooked by the public eye. Right now, we'll have a guy with a channel coming up to 10,000 subs, and if it had been any other person with none of this stuff on his record, I would be celebrating that and supporting that. And we did support him at one stage whenever we thought he was innocent. But the fact that there's new subs coming in that don't have a clue about this, just like my channel, there's new subs that have came in now that don't have a clue about this situation. A lot has come out, and he now, in my opinion, is trying to dupe his new subs with money, bingo. I know there's a guy called who was very critical of me. He's called Dogman. I don't really like Dogman because he's lied about me. But that said, I heard on a podcast, when Dogman thought he was innocent and he was giving him money, and there was no receipt shown. He's taking this money off his subs. He's saying it's for other means. He's saying it's for charity. He's saying it's for this, that, and the other, and it's not going. So he's not only is there sexual criminality, domestic violence, coercive control, there is fraudulent behavior added onto that too. And these poor people are coming onto his channel, which is, he claims it to be a mental health channel. And these people are coming on, subscribing to the channel for advice. And all they're really getting is a balloon sitting on a bed, talking absolute shit, preaching to the public. This man, he says he's been through lots of hardships in his life. For me personally, myself, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning with a sick child, having to go to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. A lot of his subscribers are mums, dads, supporters of his that live really hard, decent lives, good, hard-working people of the British, Irish, American, general world public. And he's preaching to these people as if he knows better. I can guarantee you right now, right, whatever you believe about him, there's bullshit somewhere. I believe everything now. I think that what you're dealing with here is a once-in-a-lifetime guy. I think that's why you have a bundle of channels directing their attention onto this one guy. Because, and I'll have to say this, Steve, if this was Mark Feely, we all know the notorious nonce, Mark Feely, who looks like a nonce, who acts like a nonce, he looks strange, then we would be we would all not even question what was said about this guy. But because Daka looks the way he looks and he acts the way he acts and he sort of talks the way he talks, people, just look by this. So there's no difference between him and a Mark Feely, in my opinion. Looks shouldn't come into it. Behavior shouldn't come into it. It should be what has this man been accused of, and what has this man done in his life. And as it stands, I don't know one man that's been accused more than once. I know one guy that was accused, he didn't do it, and he struggles very hard in his life to even get into relationships. This guy has multiple allegations of a sexual nature, domestic abuse, coercive control, a racist charge. This guy's racist. So, do you know what I mean? It's, where do we draw the line here? Are the public that silly not to do their research? It took me a month to 2 months to realize what I was dealing with. Now you've got a channel here on for months, and his subscribers don't want to know. They just don't want to know. And massive respect to the lady to come on now, to have a voice, a woman's voice, an alleged victim's voice, to drive this on, to bring awareness to what's actually going on in this situation. Because, as I say, this isn't just your bog standard predator that's, doing whatever. This is a guy that is a narcissistic sociopath that has no feelings for others and mimics other feelings. Because I'm going to say this to you now, Steve, right? If I was accused of this and I was an innocent man, I probably wouldn't be here now.
I mean, like I say, I have to big up Alec so much, because he isn't trained, or he hasn't had experience in conducting such an in-depth and such harrowing interviews as the one that he done last night. And Alec comes from a Royal Marine background, so he would have come across many scenarios and scenes throughout his life as a Royal Marine. But he'll probably tell you himself that last night's interview probably don't come close to whatever he's seen within his Royal Marine career. So, Alec, I take my hat off to you, sir, because the way you executed the interview, and I know you've done a heck of a lot of work behind the scenes with the survivor. I can only but take my hat off to you for conducting such a touching and heartbreaking interview. Dot, you're the strongest lady in the world today that I've seen, and probably I won't see anyone braver than you. Full of courageousness to be able to sit there after all of what you went through, to bring awareness of this guy, DECCA, to the world, and what he put you through was harrowing. I mean, I had a tear. As a man, I'm not scared to admit it. With some of that stuff that he's put you through and what you endured, brought a tear to my eye. And quite frankly, I would agree with Alec that, I'm embarrassed to be a man if DECCA is the type of person in the world that calls himself a man, to be honest with you.
Listen, now, Steve, what a man
exactly
is.
What you said. Exactly
Steve,
what you...
Steve, what a man is, mate. What a man is somebody that gets up in the morning, takes his kid to school, looks after the house, has the weight of the world on his shoulders, and sometimes has to put a smile on his face just to make the room happy for the family. Whether that is you're still living with your mum at 40 years of age, whether that is you've got a house full of kids, it doesn't matter if you're not working or not. It doesn't matter. The main priority of a man is to provide, whether that be emotionally providing, which I struggle with, by the way. I struggle with emotions and things like that, but also providing financially, security, and things like that. Now, what I'm seeing here is, and there's loads of other words that you could describe DECCA as, and I'm not taking mental health out of this because I know there's a lot of people that suffer with mental health. But But what you've got here is, and I'm going to call this now, Steve, right? He's using the trolls to drive himself through the algorithms, as he calls them, the trolls. Now, there is plenty of trolls. And what I've noticed is, sort of looking at his behaviors, whenever his views go down, he calls out one of the people that are calling him out, as he calls them, the trolls. They're not trolls. About 85% of them aren't trolls. The rest of them are just in it. They don't care if there's victims, and they just want something to talk about. And they're doing a bit of trolling, flip-flopping from side to side, from channel to channel. But for the people that really do care, that are bringing awareness to this, he uses those people. And anytime he needs views, he goes back to his bank of accounts that are on YouTube, and it drives him up through the algorithms. And this is what I'm trying to say here. This is a narcissistic sociopath who does not care, because he knows he can come on the screen, and every time there's a video made about this guy, he will drop a mental health video himself, and then he gains hundreds of comments, loads of subscriptions of people that think that the sun shines out of his arse. And unfortunately, Steve, it's going to take this guy to do something else for people to realize.
See, that's what worries me, Ronan, because as you just rightfully said, you know, this man, he's so dangerous. I'll go to the extent to actually say, you know, he's capable of taking a life. He's capable of taking a female's life, and you know, it's just so sad. Unless this guy is brought to justice and put within the prison system, I do believe that a life will be taken, or will be very badly hurt, more than what some of these survivors have actually gone through at the hands of him. And
well,
that, to me, quite frankly, you know, isn't good enough, because there's corruption within the Carlisle police. There has to be, right? Because there's so many survivors out there of this guy, and for him not even be, you know, NFA. Something needs to be done, because the foot soldier police that are having to listen to the things that these survivors have gone through at the hands of DECCA, they're doing their job, you know, because they're outraged and they can't wait to sling the book at him. But for some unknown reason, the guys above them,
well,
know,
look,
the coppers and inspectors and someone
I'm
at the top is protecting him.
going to talk about
And
that, Steve, right? Because
this is for sure. I will go to the extent to say there is corruption involved in this, because any other man, right? They will be doing 13 to 15 years for what's come out about
not
this guy.
necessarily, mate. Not necessarily. This is what I'm trying to say.
But I do believe, you know, that, you know, eventually he will take a female life, and that's the scary part, and that's where something needs to be done now.
Well, this is what I'm trying to say to you. This is what I'm trying to say. We'll have a guy, Mark Feely, who is a clear, not off normal criminal.
Yeah, but the police are
What is it?
protecting him, Ronan.
How do you say nonce? Not off normal
Not
criminal.
of normal criminal element.
And not of normal criminal element, right? That's who Mark Feely is, right?
Yeah,
And
but Ronan, he's protected by the police. I don't know if you've seen some of the videos.
oh, I know him.
The police are protecting him, and in certain videos they've arrested the people that are confronting him.
I know Mark, right? Mark Feely. I followed this guy, and put it this way, there's nowhere that guy can go. There's nowhere that guy can run without ever being found. He knows what he is.
They tried putting him in Shropshire.
Right, but
you know, and within 30 seconds of his foot landing in Shropshire, he was gone.
I'm not defending the cops on this here, right? But for you to put somebody in prison, you need stone cold evidence, statements, and evidence. In a situation like this, when you're dealing with a narcissistic sociopath who understands the law and understands that things are going to be NFA'd, you need a 70% chance. I was reading this somewhere, or was it Donna Humble said this yesterday?
Yeah.
You need a 70%. The
CPS
CPS won't even go, or forgive me if I'm mixing up the organizations, but I'm just going to say the CPS or whatever, the police will NFA something if they don't have a 70% chance of conviction, right? So I didn't know this. And now what you're dealing with here is it's not the police on the street. They want to lock up most of these guys. They're looking at these people going, these people should be in jail. But what you're dealing with is, right, is the hierarchy understand that to put somebody in jail. Now, for instance, could you imagine if it was the other way about, where it was very easy to put a man in jail for something, and then all a woman had to do was have an allegation and go to the police, and next minute they're arresting you and they're putting you in jail for something that you didn't do. They have to be very careful about this. But whenever a guy like Daka, who has an MO of domestic violence, sexual criminality, has a sexual conviction, multiple sexual allegations, coercive control, and a racist charge on his sheet, then what you're dealing with is the police need to take it case by case and not just sweep things under the carpet. And that's what it essentially is. They're looking at that, and it's the same as the whole Jimmy Savile thing, right? I understand Jimmy Savile probably done 10 times worse things. He was doing things with dead people and everything, that dirty, disgusting monster. But it doesn't make a difference. It's sexual criminality. And it took for that man to die for stuff to come out about him. Now, this is the thing. They need stone cold evidence. And unfortunately, if you look at the statistics on rape, on stuff to do with children, these things aren't prosecuted.
Joe.
There's a very small percentage of these actually prosecuted, because there's like a window of 48 hours or 24 hours where a woman has to do a rape kit for DNA evidence. She has to give a statement. Now, you just imagine if you're a woman and you've just been brutalized by a beast like that certain individual that we're talking about, and you don't know what to do. You're afraid. Maybe he's intimidated you. Maybe he says, I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to pull a gun on you. I can do this. You don't know the connections I have. Or maybe he doesn't even need to say those things. Maybe just his presence alone will do that. Now, me and you both know, Steve, as blokes, us sitting here, we're not going to be intimidated by that. We'll be going, aye, that's dead on. We'll leave the room, and then we're going to do something about it. But for a woman, it's different. Women live in a different world. And I could just imagine, and then they maybe think for a day, should I go, should I not go? And then that day goes by, the second day goes by, and then there's your rape kit gone. You can't get any DNA evidence. And then there's the most crucial part of the investigation gone. So basically, it's going to be her word against his. And then on top of that, if you look at the coercive control, if you look at the sort of the manipulation of the law itself, you have he maybe targets some women that are into certain kinks and niches. If they're into sort of that type of BDSM or foreplay where it's like where it's forceful, some women are into this, and there's text messages back and forth of you and him talking like this, and then he says, well, no, this was arranged. The police look at the phone, and all they see is that type of text message, and that goes on his favor. So what does a woman do? All I could say is if you're in that situation, and I know it's easier for me to say it because I'm a bloke, if you find yourself in that situation, the most crucial time is for you to get to the police, get that kit done, that rape kit done. Apologies, I can't actually say the word for the YouTube algorithms, but get that rape kit done and get that statement in, because time is crucial in a situation like that. And you'll have more monsters locked up behind bars. And it's not the women's fault. There's no way. I think they should bring in lie detectors. People were saying that, lie detectors don't work. Listen, I understand everybody hates Jeremy Kyle, right? The reason why a lie detector is only like 95 or 97% accurate is because they have to take into consideration that people are lying about drugs. But if they do a lie detector test on somebody that's not on any pharmaceutical medication, recreational drugs, or anything like that, and they're totally clean, that lie detector, and they don't have any mental health issues. Like I understand that Daka has bipolar, but the only thing that he told me this himself, the only thing that hinders him from a lie detector test, because I said to him, if that was me, mate, I would do a lie detector test. Fuck the subject access request. Fuck the aggro. I would be doing a lie detector test to prove to the people that I did not do this in any way, shape, or form. And he said to me, I can't do this because of my bipolar medication. And I was thinking to myself, I wouldn't give a fuck about bipolar medication. I would rather the country know that I'm not uh, a notorious grape ape. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's loads of things coming into this. And by the way, I have to say this. Whenever I was speaking there about it's crucial for you to go and speak to the police, I didn't mean it to say it as forceful as that. I'm trying to be as clear as possible that if there's anybody listening to this that goes through this in the future, that has went through this very, very recently, please go to the police. Please get that kit done. It will be okay. There is people out there that will protect you. There's women's refuges, the police themselves. There's women police that you can only deal with. These people will help you, because under no circumstances should a person feel like they can't. And I only listened to the first half of that podcast, Steve. You're going to explain the second half of the podcast now in a minute. And the level of control, going into her house, lifting her TV, making him lifting her TV and putting it in the room while she's sitting in the dark, while he wants to sit in the fucking room by himself, and then making her comb his hair until he falls asleep. This is a certified 100% baby who thinks that the world owes him something. Entitlement. Unfortunately, or sorry, yeah, it's unfortunately for himself. Unfortunately for us, the world owes him absolutely nothing. And you know, this is possibly, Steve, what you're dealing with. Looking into a few cases, and I'm sorry to ramble on here, but looking into a few cases, a lot of these grape apes were spoon fed as a kid and given a lot as a kid and spoilt as a kid. So when they grow up, that behavior can mix in with their sort of relationships and their expectations on women, on what a woman's actually there for, or what a child's actually there for. You know, this person isn't royalty. This person comes from the same fucking shit that we come from. Council estates, hard-working, working-class people, and this motherfucker thinks he's royalty. I've got something to tell this cunt. He isn't Prince Andrew, right? He isn't Prince Andrew, where somebody's going to pay £12 million to cover shit up. This shit's out in the open. And there's only going to be so long that you can sit there on a screen and portray to the public that you're something that you're not. And that's a fact.
I mean, I promised myself when I came back with my new channel, you know, that I wasn't going to get involved in drama or anything from the past, you know, because my channel's pushing in the positive direction. But to be honest with you, I had no choice, you know, considering what we went through, you know, where he lied to us, manipulated us to try and say that they were all trolls. And, you know, so this is my right to reply the way that I see it. Now that survivors are coming forward to tell their story of exactly what they've gone through at the hands of DECCA. You know, so I apologise to my viewers, but this is a subject that I've been touching on in my hometown. So, you know, there is a link to this, and it needs to be said, it needs to be told as awareness for any other female in the world that are ever thinking about getting into a relationship with this monster. All I ask of you is to watch Alex's interview with a survivor, you know, and then rethink your actions. He's a very dangerous man, and to be honest with you, like I said, you know, I'm embarrassed to call myself a man if that's what the actions of a man is, but it's not at all. And I do understand 1,000,000%, you know, why some of these survivors don't step forward at the earliest stage. And you can imagine only the intimidation that this guy puts upon the survivors. So they feel it within themselves that they can't come forward because of threats or etc. That will be put upon them if they do approach the authorities. And I do strongly believe that this man, he will go on to so much as say he needs to be stopped now.
What do you mean by that, Steve? But did that come out in the second half of the podcast that I didn't see? Was that talked about?
It was mentioned, yeah. You know, of the capabilities of this individual, and it basically on the last part of it, they were just basically talking about how the relationship ended. I mean, you know, you can't live on this earth.
Here's a fact, Steve. Right? Here's a fact. Most of these cunts, right? Most of these cunts, right? Listen, I'm not going to say he can have a square go. I'm not saying that. He's probably a harder man than I am. Listen, I haven't done a lot of street fighting and bare knuckle fighting in my time. I haven't, like, right? I'm not going to claim to be something that I'm not, right? But I can handle myself though, right? I'm not a wimp. I'm not a beta male, right? But see, if I'm just thinking, right? See if he was in any other country on planet Earth. See if he was over here, and he was known for that shit. He wouldn't be here anymore. That's all I'm going to say.
The other point is, you know, he near enough broke her jaw, you know, and she's had to endure the pain, even still to this day, from that incident where he punched her in the mouth, and you know, she was probably lucky not to have a broken jaw. But for your brother to be stood there and witness that Daka slapped her in the mouth, and the family is still 100% behind him, you know, covering for him. I mean, that I don't understand, because it don't matter if you flesh or blood of my family. If you've done something like that in my eyes, one of three things are going to happen. A, I'll be a civilian and I'll phone the police and I'll do you myself. B, I'll take you down a dark alley. You right? Or C, you know, it'll be drummed into you so much that you ain't part of this family.
Don't lie, Steve. If I done that in front of you, mate, right? You'd give me a high. You'd beat the fuck out of me, wouldn't you?
Number one, I'll drag you down the dark alley. That'd be number one.
I know. Listen, I know that. Listen, we've talked about this behind the
scenes. I mean, that's coming from the street. But then, if you're not from a street background and you're a normal, populated person in the community, you'd pick the phone up, you know, and get that person arrested and put exactly where he needs to be in jail for committing an offence like that. And he wants to portray himself as a mental health ambassador. Come on. Are you people out there so thick that you can't see?
That's where no, I'm not going to get at the people. I'm not going to get at the people because the people don't know, right? I was one of those people at one stage, so I'm not going to get at the people. But what I am going to say is that's where the money is. Where there is financial gain, you will find monsters. Money is the root of all evil. I'm a big supporter of money. I'm not a communist or a socialist. I'm a supporter of business and people to have a good livelihood and make as much money as possible. That's not what I'm trying to say. But the money is the root of all evil. Evil starts where there is money, right? And where you can make money, you will find fraudulent behavior. And this is what you're calling this is what the definition of a fraud is, right? A fraud. This person is a fraud, right? Who's saying that they are talking. And listen, I'm not saying the person doesn't suffer from mental health issues. I'm sure that there's mental health issues there, but that accounts for about 2%. Entitlement counts for about 98% of this. I am entitled to this. I will take this. And there's nothing you can do about it. And if you speak up about this, A, B, and C is going to happen. We've seen it. Boom, 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 boom. Down the allegations list, the conviction list. Coercive control, manipulation, intimidation. This is what these type of they do this stuff. Now, a person like myself, I'm not a beta male when it comes to another male, right? But when it comes to women and things like that, I can back down, because, and it seems with him, it can be, I know he doesn't back down from a fight, but he lays down quite fast that you're going to do this for me. And this is away from the sexual criminality. You're going to do this for me, and you're going to take this. And if you don't, I'm going to degrade you, because I'm entitled to you. And this is a generation. This is why it's so important to raise children the correct way. Because if you spoil your kids, you may think, oh, it's fine now. He's a spoiled little shit. He's fine. Some kids can grow up fine, and they can understand the meaning of things and know the worth of things. A lot of people, or some people, grow up with that entitlement going into relationships, and then what happens in a relationship? There's a sexual side to a relationship. I'm entitled to this. You should give me this. Nobody's entitled to anything. It doesn't matter if you work all day and you're bringing in £20,000 a day, and the house is spotless, and you've paid for there's 10 cars sitting out the front. You're not entitled to another person's body to take something. That isn't yours to take. That is somebody else's. And it's only when there is consent when that happens. When it's both parties are consensual. What you're dealing with here is pure entitlement.
I mean, I would never dream of, even raising my voice to a female. Let alone a finger. And I'm sorry to say this, but he can't be seen by anybody in the world as being a mental health ambassador, because that's simply not how they act. Mental health ambassadors are professional. They act professional. They got a clean life, and they're there to help people. Now, he's only there to see what he can gain from people that he wants to communicate with. I mean, it was only foreseen. He only went to the dentist to get his teeth sorted out, and he was there sending messages to the receptionist, I believe. Now, if you're going to a dentist, that's to get treatment, which is a professional organisation that are there simply and purely, to better your teeth, to take you out of pain. So for that person then to overstep the mark and start texting and messaging a receptionist, that's unprofessional. For anybody out there that are wanting to seek advice about mental health, just do not approach DECCA.
He also dropped his foot in it, Steve. He dropped. I don't know if you've seen the recent video. He said that he, if you're a man, it's okay to get Botox, which is fine. I'm not going to get at anybody for the way they look. If you want to get Botox, right? Personally, myself, I don't want to look like Jackie Stallone, but if it's something that you want to look like, work away. Lip fillers and all the rest, I'm not going to get at that. But he says that a lot of people that are trolling him are homophobic, but before that he said, just because I get Botox and lip fillers doesn't make me a woofter. And then he went on to say that the people that are getting it of him are homophobic, but he just called gay people woofters.
Well, incidentally, the extent that he goes with his survivors, he left this survivor penniless, in debt of like tens of thousands of pounds. He wrecked the home so severely that there was only like a lampshade and a light bulb. So he left her homeless, penniless, and in debt. I mean, every relationship that I've exited from, I've always made sure, that they're built better than how they were when I first stepped into the relationship. And I've kept in communication with, exes to an extent. to the point that they know they can talk to me about any subject. You don't leave somebody that you once loved penniless, homeless, and in debt. So for the people out there that are thinking about getting involved with this gentleman, this monster, please look at all the facts, and please protect yourself from this monster.
I'm going to be.
I don't know what your thoughts are, Ronan, but that's not the actions of a man.
Well,
you don't.
No, it's not. Listen, that goes without saying. Look, I've always walked away from people in my life that treated people, regardless if it's a man or a woman or a child. If I see that, I'm not going to say any names, but I went through a situation in regards to, it was way less than this. It was nothing like this at all. And there was it was me and two other fellas, and he done something to his son. Not that it was criminal. There was no criminal offence, but it wasn't something that I or my other friend would have done to our son. It was sort of teaching the kid violent behaviours. Now, was it illegal? Probably not. But I walked away from that, and I'm quite sensitive to that. I may struggle with my emotions in regards to crying. Being in certain situations, if somebody says to me that somebody's died, I don't know how to react. I struggle with it. But when it comes to kids, and I suppose this is a struggle, it gets me angry that a kid is in an abusive situation. And I'm going to sound really, really bad here. I sympathize. My heart goes out to women that are in that situation too. But whenever it's a child, female or male, boy or a girl, it doesn't make a difference. It makes me angry, and I could literally do time. I could do, if I witnessed something like a kid being abused physically or whatnot, or emotionally, it probably would make me angry. Because listen, relationships aren't easy, Steve. I'm in a relationship coming up to 13 years, right? There's been plenty of arguments between me and my missus. She's a Scouser, so there's, do you know what I mean? That goes without saying. She's a Scouser. Like, you're going to have an argument.
Well, is she from Liverpool?
Yeah, mate, she's from Bootle in Liverpool, right?
Well,
and
I didn't realise that.
No, she's fiery. Like, she's fiery. She'll tell you if you're wrong. Like, and there's been plenty of arguments. And if there's ever like an argument in front of my son, it makes me feel shit inside that maybe he's had to witness a bit of a tiff between his mother and me. Now, I could just imagine a kid in a household where 10 times worse is going on, and maybe the mum's being abused. And I understand we're going off the path here, but I'm telling you what really makes me angry here, what I would do time for, happily to 25 years in prison for, is for a bloke that thinks he's entitled to children and women, and thinks he can treat these people, these children, these women, whatever way he pleases. That is not a man. That is a soulless creature who doesn't know who he is himself, who only acts on impulse. And for me, listen, I'm not a religious man, but I am sort of, as I'm getting older, I'm getting religious. To me, that's the definition of the devil. Somebody whose sole purpose in life is to take, and not give. I'm going to take this from you because I'm entitled to it, and I'm going to give nothing back. And if you speak up about it, I'm going to ruin your life. That's the definition of the devil. That's evil. That's what you're dealing with. And as you say, he's out here betraying to the public that he's a mental health ambassador. Listen, Steve, I suffer with mental health issues. I don't come out here every day. I'm going to just call this now, Steve, right? And I don't care how anybody actually sees this. I'm sure there is legitimate mental health ambassadors. I know a lot of good people talking about mental health issues, but I would say a vast majority of the people on here talking about mental health are probably doing it just to gain money from the public. It's just like fitness people. They come on, they're all injecting testosterone, taking all different types of steroids, and then saying get abs in 4 minutes just to get money out of the public. It's monetized, and that's what I go back to. When somebody is monetized, they will go to any lengths to get that money, even if it is lying about, mental health issues. I'm not saying he doesn't have mental health issues, But if you have been accused, if you have been convicted of a sexual crime, which he has been, if you have multiple sexual allegations on your record, if you have been done for domestic violence, racism, and coercive control, under no circumstances should you be using an NHS logo and talking about mental health, because the people that you're speaking to probably went through similar things that you put people through. And that's what people aren't getting. And for a while, I was like, I don't care. I'm just gonna tell you the truth. I was like, I don't care, because if these people are willing to take this and not see through the bullshit, then let them be victims of this person. I don't care. But then I thought about it. If people don't speak up about it, and people don't and ask questions, and the reason why we can speak so confidently about this is because we have asked these questions for months, behind the scenes, to his face, on the phone, and all we got was manipulation and nothing back. So it's, in my opinion, this is all true. There's too much now for this not to be true. And it is true. And it's only going to get worse. As I said, sorry, go ahead, Steve.
I'm saying that's just one courageous survivor that's come forward. You know, we can only but imagine how many more are actually out there, because there's not just one. You know, there's handfuls. And I'm hoping now, from what can be gained from the interview that the Humble and Alec put on last night, I'm hoping now that some of these other survivors can find the same courage as what Doc found to actually come forward now. So, to any survivor out there, you know, that may well be watching this, you know, please come forward. Today's the day for you to speak up and to tell your story. There's plenty of support out there in the way of organisations, you know, that will help you, and it's only but awareness that Humble and Alec is trying to bring to the channel.
What are we dealing with here, Steve? What are we dealing with? Are you
have
saying
a word with Donna. If you don't feel multiple survivors out there, and today's the day for all of the survivors of this said person. You know, come forward. You know, find that little bit of courage more than what you've hidden away. You know, get this story out there, because the more of the survivors that come forward right now, you know, the easier it's going to be for the world to see DECCA for what he is. Please come forward.
Well, don't even say it in that sense. They don't have to find any more courage. They can pass it on to somebody else. They can pass this burden on to somebody else for them to deal with it, and they can step back now. They can release that weight off their shoulders and give that to somebody else that can actually do something with it. The police can't do anything. They need stone cold, 100% solidified evidence. It's different. Like if there's a bank robbery, right? You know that person's at the scene. You've caught the person, or he's been caught with the money. There's ink on him or whatnot. He's been shot or whatnot. You know it's that person, or there's CCTV footage. In these cases, these predators are so coerced into what to do, because they know there's only a 24-hour period or 48-hour period where you get to do these kits. They can have all the text messages set up to make it look like it was consensual. And they know that the police can't do much with it. It's a different type of criminal, not of normal criminal element. Hence why it's called a nonce.
See what wanders through my mind, and we've seen this in the papers and on the news of historical crimes, right? Of people being convicted through the courts. You know, I've wondered how or what it will take. Like you say, you got your 48 hours, you know, to get that DNA evidence, blah, 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 to put forward to the CPS. But what's actually wandered through my mind is how they convict on historic crimes. There's been many cases out there that people have been convicted 20 years down the line, you know, and I wonder what the lines are for that, because this is essential what we're dealing with. You know, these are historic crimes.
Well, in regards to historic crimes, I don't know. I wouldn't be the best person to speak about this. Maybe what we should do is actually go out and source a solicitor who actually knows how to who does this stuff. But when it comes, like for instance, just take the Jimmy Savile thing. It took him to die for people to speak up because they were so afraid. Now, the reason why they were so afraid is I don't care how this rubs people the wrong way. He was facilitated by the royal family. He was brought in by Mountbatten, and he became friends with Prince Charles. And sorry about the noise there if you heard about interference. And he rubbed shoulders with top policemen all around the world, especially in England. So if anything went to the police, it was thrown to the side. Now, in a case like this, if I had his subject access request and I handed that to somebody in my country, Ireland, the north of Ireland, the first thing that they would do is take me to a room, probably tie me to a chair if I was given this to the right people. For instance, just let's say certain paramilitary groups. And they would keep me there for a week, talking to me, interrogating me on being a police informant. Because I don't understand. There's too much on his record for him not to be done for actually do time for a sexual offense. There's too much. Now, I understand. I don't want to be hypocritical because I did talk about how they need a 70% chance of winning to even go ahead. And if they don't, they just NFA it. But if you're dealing with a guy with multiple things and you're known to the police for this shit, they should go above and beyond to get this guy off the streets. Why is it never even made the newspaper that this guy has this on his record? Notorious person who has multiple allegations. You don't even have to say convictions, allegations. You know, for me, it's crazy. And I know that there's more of these people out here. And all I could say is take away this guy. But I'm sure this situation on YouTube has scared other predators coming on trying to do the same thing.